Chris Honorado and Brian Mariano in for Roger all week here on Big Board Sports 104.5. The team, and good enough to stay with us through a break, is Dave Strader, who will be honored with the Foster Hewitt Memorial Award, putting him into the Hockey Hall of Fame for his contributions to the sport as a broadcaster. And he'll be in Glens Falls tonight at the Civic Center to drop the puck before Game 3 of the Adirondack Thunder's Kelly playoff series. Dave, let's get to some of the action on the ice here, and obviously Game 4 tonight is huge for the Rangers, down 2-1. They've had their struggles at home all season long, and particularly in the playoffs going back a couple of years now. What do you see as a factor, a key to tonight's game for the Rangers in order to win?
Well, I think they've got to be just a lot better collectively. I'm very good friends with Joe Micheletti, who's the fine analyst for the Rangers on Madison Square Garden Network. I spoke with him yesterday, and he said it. It was that performance in Game 3 was one of the toughest he's seen. With a team coming home, having earned a split on the road. Yeah, they lost a tough one with a chance to go up 2-0 in the series, but it was a clear case that the Montreal Canadiens had a lot more of the want and the desire, and their big guys led by Alexander Radulov and Carey Price are winning the battles against the best players from the Rangers. So from what I've seen, the Rangers are really up against it. This Montreal team is going to be a tough out anyway. Carey Price is on top of this game. If it wasn't for Henrik Lundqvist, I mean it could be 0-3. He's been their best player. They need to find a way to get some goals and get some of these other people involved in the scoring. But it's tough. The Montreal Canadiens, they made the coaching change. They've got Claude Julien there. They're energized. Their top guys are going, and it's going to be a challenge. But lose tonight and go down 3-1, going back to Montreal. It's never over, because we've seen some phenomenal comebacks within games in these playoffs and in recent years within series. But the New York Rangers as a group are going to have to be a whole lot better and more committed to playing together tonight than they certainly were in Game 3.
Dave, we had the 4 games last night that all, went into overtime. But one of the games I know you were on was the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Washington Capitals, and Toronto wins 4-3 in overtime last night. Do you think the Capitals are in trouble here? How do you see the rest of this series playing out?
Well, are they in trouble? That's probably best answered by what's going on inside that Washington locker room. I mean, Mike Babcock has been a terrific coach for a lot of years in this league, and he's been on both sides of this. His first year in Detroit, that team won 58 games. They had like the 3rd or 4th best record in the history of the National Hockey League, the number 1 seed, and they played the Edmonton Oilers in the first round, the number 8 seed. And Mike Babcock said, I never saw a team that went from as good as we were to not being able to complete a pass, not being able to skate. They lost that series to the number 8 seed Oilers in 6 games. Now, the Oilers went on to go to the Stanley Cup final and push Carolina all the way to a Game 7. So they were far from a fluke team, and they had Chris Pronger, and, they had some veteran players. They're a little different than this Toronto team. But Babcock was making the point that, there is something called the pucker factor, he calls it, where when you're the prohibitive favorite, things change, and if all of a sudden the team that you're playing against is able to keep the games tight, keep the games close, disrupt what maybe you were able to do during the course of the season, and put you in a uncomfortable situation, well, it's a test to see whether you're really ready to be a championship team. And that Red Wing team wasn't ready, and we're going to find out if this Washington team is ready. They certainly came out, got the 2-0 lead last night. What impresses me about Toronto is not just that they're in the series, that the 3 games have gone into overtime and they've won. They've been tested every way possible already. They blew a 2-goal lead in Game 1. Everybody said, well, there was their chance. If the young Maple Leafs were going to be in this series, they needed to win that game. Well, they looked at it as, it was disappointing, but we proved we can play. So what do? They stay there in Washington and they win a game on the road, and their youngest player, who's played only 8 games in his career in the regular season, scores the big goal, and then they go home and fall behind 2-0. Well, now the Capitals are going to establish themselves. and the Maple Leafs just say, no, we're good enough to be here, and we're not going to beat ourselves. You're going to beat us. And I think this is what's really surprising the Washington Capitals. Whether they would say it publicly, but they got to be looking at this going, this isn't what we expected. But they're up against it now. I like their team, Washington, like everybody else. I like the moves they made to change their third and fourth lines from what they were last year, and they just look like a complete team to me. But they're going to have to figure out that it's going to be. And their coach Barry Trotz is great. He said all the right things in the post-game press conference. They better be ready that this is not David versus Goliath like a lot of people think. This is a darn good young hockey team with a great coach that believes now they can win. If they didn't believe, they'd certainly believe now. And if are the Capitals in trouble? If they don't win tomorrow night, they're in a heap of trouble.
Dave, our executive producer at Channel 13 is a rabid Rangers fan and just a big hockey guy in general. So he runs a pool every postseason. I picked the Capitals to come out of the East, and I picked the Blackhawks to come out of the West. And so obviously now I'm just rooting for complete carnage, that everybody else's bracket blows up the way mine appears poised to do. If you had to, from this point going forward, pick one team from each conference, who would you go with?
Well, I would have started out. I really thought a Washington-Chicago Stanley Cup final was in the cards, knowing that there can be upsets and things are so even. But I certainly wouldn't have predicted that Washington would be in trouble in the first round, nor would I have predicted Chicago would be in the predicament that they're in. Again, here's a team with the basic core of guys that have won 3 championships, and Stan Bowman's done a terrific job in the salary cap era of filling in with guys at the right price that can still play, but he can keep the core group together. And it's funny. I was talking to Pat Foley, the play-by-play voice of the Hawks yesterday. He called to congratulate me, and we talked a little bit. And I said, "What's going on? I mean, I'm seeing bits and pieces of your series, but I've been working a couple of nights that you guys are playing." And he said, "It's the compete level of the Predators compared to the Hawks. They are competing at a higher level, and that's surprising again because of the championship caliber guys that the Hawks have, and a great captain in Jonathan Taves, and great talent with Kane and Panarin and goaltending and the whole thing. But for whatever reason, that the Nashville Predators just are saying that we're ready, and you better be ready. And Pekka Rinne is playing out of his mind. Chicago finally scores a couple goals again, and they get up 2-0. You think, okay, they're going to settle in, and they know how to play with the lead. And doesn't Nashville come back and win it in overtime? So that was the other amazing thing about last night, is all 4 of those games had at least a 2-goal deficit, and 2 of them had 3-goal deficits that teams overcame. So it's just crazy what's going on. But right now the teams, you're asking me who looks good. I mean, Anaheim looks phenomenal.
Yeah,
they're down 3, and they come back against a rival, and they have a chance to do something special out there. St. Louis looks like they're ready to have a special postseason. And in the East, I mean, Pittsburgh right now, just whoever survives this Toronto Washington series to go up against Sidney Crosby and Pittsburgh is going to be something special in terms of the way that they're playing and their top guys are just going.
Dave, I know the support in your fight has been outpouring. You've got ours, you know that, and I know I can speak for the entire Capital Region in that we're in your corner, man, and we're thinking about you every step of the way. It's been great to catch up with you here a little bit.
Well, you guys as well. Anytime during these playoffs, and believe me, all the support wherever it's coming from has been a big part of just getting me to this point. I've been honest with people, and I still have a fight ahead of me, and things that have to happen, but. The support has been incredible, and it's been a big part of being able to stay positive.
Well, with that, we will definitely bother you down the road. Roger will be back next week, and I'm sure we'll be calling you, Dave. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, great. Take care. Thanks, guys.